Hello, welcome. This is answers for the 4.1, 4.2 test review. Um, make an attempt to try to do these on your own before you watch these videos. This particular video will be over numbers 1 through 4. So for number 1, before we solve this equation by taking square roots, we want to make sure that we have the square part isolated, alone. So right now, we've got to divide by 9 and do that on both sides. And that cancels the 9, leaving x squared is equal to 729 divided by 9 is 81. And then we have the squared part alone, so the next step would be to take the square root of both sides. So we've got x squared. Remember, when we do this, we have to remember that plus or minus. So plus or minus the square root of 81. The square root of x squared is x. And then we've got plus or minus the square root of 81 is 9. Oops, 9. So this is two numbers. Remember, we've got negative 9 and positive 9. And so our solution set is plus or minus 9, which can be written as plus 9 or minus 9, or just 9 and negative 9. So that's number 1. Number 2, again, we got to get that squared part alone, and that plus 5 is in the way. So we're gonna start by removing that by subtracting 5 from both sides. And that gives us n squared is equal to negative 8. And now the squared part is alone. We can take the square root of both sides. So the square root of n squared equals plus or minus the square root of negative 8. The negative is going to come out as an I. We can simplify the square root of 8. We want to see what are the factors of 8. 2 will go into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. When you get to a prime number, you're done. So I have one pair of 2's and another 2 that doesn't have a pair. And so the n equals plus or minus 2. The square root of a negative number is the imaginary number I. And then we have the square root of 2. And so again, this is two numbers. We've got negative 2i square root of 2 and positive 2i square root of 2. And that would be the answer then for number 2. Number 3, we've got 10n squared plus 4 equals 154. So we subtract 4 from both sides. And we get 10n squared equals 150. Then we divide by 10. And n squared equals 15. We then take the square root of both sides. Square root of n squared equals plus or minus. Always remember that plus or minus square root of 15. N then is equal to, and here the square root of 15 cannot be simplified because it only has factors 3 and 5, neither of which is a pair of factors. You have to have at least 2 of a factor to simplify it. So 15 can't be simplified. Square root of 15 can't be simplified. So we have negative square root of 15 and positive square root of 15. And that would be our solution set there for number 3. Number 4. We first want to remove the part that's furthest away from the variables. So we're going to look at that minus 8 first, and we're going to do the opposite of subtracting 8, which is add 8. We're going to do that to both sides of the equal sign. Cancels it on the left. And on the right, that gives us 294. On the left, it leaves us with 6 parentheses m plus 4 squared. And then that 6 that's outside those parentheses is multiplication. So the opposite of multiply is divide. We divide both sides here by 6. And that leaves us with m plus 4 squared equals 49. Now we have the square, now we have the squared part alone. We're going to take the square root of both sides. The square root of m plus 4 squared equals plus or minus square root of 49. And that cancels the square on the left, leaving just m plus 4 is equal to plus or minus 7. Now, I am leaving some space there in front of my plus or minus 7 because the 4, the students want to take the 4 and subtract it from 7. You can't do that. So we're going to take minus 4 and we're going to put it right here in that space, if you will. And that gives us m is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 7. Remember, the plus or minus is on the 7, not on the 4. And so here we can separate this out, and we get negative 4 plus 7, which would be 3, or negative 4 minus 7, which would be negative 11. And so our solution set is 3 and negative 11. All right. I'll see you in the next video.